The Beckhams, Mariah Carey, Lil Wayne, and more. I'm revealing some juicy celebrity secrets that have been revealed. Now, in 2008, David Beckham and Victoria Beckham's nanny, Abby Gibson, was terminated from her job after getting into a heated argument with Victoria. In retaliation, she actually ran to News of the World to give a tell-all interview about what the Beckhams were like behind closed doors, which would actually then become the actual title of the article. Now, in her interview, she revealed that the famous British perfect family facade was mostly fabricated for the press and that David and Victoria often argued, like a lot. She also explained that the famous spouses almost got divorced while Victoria was still pregnant with their third child, Cruz. However, after her scathing interview, Abby, who broke her confidentiality agreement, was actually sent to court for breaking her contract. In 2009, she was forced to issue a public apology to the Beckhams for revealing their secrets and has agreed to permanent undertakings of confidentiality. Now, in 2005, Hugh Tomlinson, Queen's counsel for the Beckhams, told the court it is uniquely hurtful and distressing to have the person who until the end of March this year was sitting around the breakfast table with them and their children discussing their daily lives, and repeating that information. Mariah Carey apparently doesn't watch the news. Producer Damian Young, who worked with Mariah during the 90s and eventually became her close friend, described the pop star as lonely and said she lived inside like a bubble. He went on to say, she didn't watch the news, she didn't watch entertainment shows or read the magazines because she was worried about reading mean things about herself. She's sensitive and, that is nothing compared though to actually one of her former assistants who claimed that she was subjected to physical and emotional trauma at the hands of Mariah's manager. Now, Liana Shaknazaran filed a lawsuit in Los Angeles Superior Court claiming that she was tormented by the singer and the singer's former manager. According to the suit, she was hired by Carey, offered a salary of over $300,000 a year. She said she had to be on call 24/7 hours a day. The assistant actually said she was subjected to this, mistreatment mainly by Mariah's former manager, but Mariah was allegedly in the room whenever it would happen and did absolutely nothing to stop it. In a turn of events though, Mariah then sued Liana, claiming she is a grifter and extortionist. Carey sued also for invasion of privacy, breach of contract, and breach of fiduciary duty. Allegedly, Liana filmed Mariah engaged in personal activities without Mariah's permission. Both parties ended up reaching a mutual agreement. Nothing further has actually come from it, so that's good. Oprah Winfrey only drinks Diet Coke. Now, this isn't like the craziest story, but it's kind of funny, so I wanted to give it an honorable mention. According to an anonymous staffer who actually worked at Harpo Productions, where they filmed the Oprah Winfrey Show, Oprah would only drink Diet Coke and she hated Pepsi. However, the vending machine at the studio only served Pepsi, which forced her staffers to serve her Pepsi that they actually called Coke. Now, one unfortunate employee didn't get that memo. He shared his story saying, "When I first started, I was asked to go get a Diet Coke. I saw that the machine was all Pepsi products, so I hauled my behind over to a Subway, bought a Diet Coke, and came back. I took it into the senior producer's office, who said, 'Where the heck have you been? We needed that yesterday.' I told her I went across the street to get a Diet Coke since that's what they asked for. She said, 'You're so stupid. When they ask for a Diet Coke, they mean, they get a Diet Pepsi.' That's when I knew my days at Harpo were limited." He got fired, all because of this very small mix-up. Ouch. Christian Bale was depressed during his early years as an actor. Harrison Chung, who worked as Christian's assistant/publicist back before the actor became really famous, said the star was really depressed and just under tremendous pressure to support his parents and his sisters through his acting career. He said, "I would always joke with him that he was the saddest guy I knew. He had the whole top floor of the house and he would stay there for days listening to music or reading. He was very moody." Harrison also explained the bizarre ways Christian's family would motivate him to continue working. He said every morning his father would prepare Christian's breakfast tray, scrambled eggs with some baked beans, like a real English tea type breakfast, walk up the stairs yelling, "Who is the greatest actor in the world?" And then he said you'd hear this small voice coming back just saying, I am. Lil Wayne is next. In late 2022, Young Money Entertainment and Signature Flight Support were all sued by Wayne's former assistant Andrew Williams after he made some bombshell allegations about the notorious rapper. In legal documents, the former assistant actually accused Wayne of multiple things, including both attacks and battery, while also alleging Wayne had caused him what he described as as emotional distress. In this suit, Andrew actually claims that Wayne and the pilot had an argument before takeoff. Andrew said he tried to stop the argument from getting physical, which he claimed, upset Wayne and led to the rapper punching him in the face with a closed fist. But not so fast, at least according to Wayne, that is, because Wayne denied all allegations of wrongdoing or that Andrew was harmed by him at all. Wayne argued that his actions were done in self-defense. As of January 2023, the situation between the two is still yet to be resolved in court. Actor Amber Heard's personal life has been dissected publicly thanks to her high-profile legal dramas, with one of the most famous ones being her notorious 2022 defamation trial with ex-husband Johnny Depp. As part of that trial, her former assistant Kate James testified, and she made some pretty shocking allegations about what being in Heard's presence, when she worked for her from 2012 and 2015 was really like. James claimed in court that Heard would often scream at her and allegedly used illegal substances. Now, James wasn't quite done there, as she also accused Heard of spitting in her face during her employment. But that was hardly the first time James made some dark allegations about her former employer. 2 years earlier, James spoke out against Heard in another trial, this time when Depp took on British tabloid The Sun over an op-ed piece that Heard had written for the outlet. Variety reported that James accused Heard of purportedly sending, her aggressive messages early in the morning on more than one occasion. James also claimed Heard took her personal story of being a SA survivor and used it as her own. Heard told the court that her former assistant was not easy to work with. She said James' behavior was horrible. Another star who isn't immune to serious allegations from their former assistant, none other than Robert De Niro. Graham Chase Robinson accused the actor of allegedly touching her without her permission and making lewd comments while in her presence. Not only that, but Robinson said she was asked to do tasks she wasn't expecting while working for the Meet the Parents star, including household chores and even scratching him on the back. Yes, she alleged that De Niro made the request on numerous occasions and once told her, "I like the way you do it." She also said De Niro and his family would regularly call the bat phone, meaning her work cell phone, and that was like after office hours. She said whenever it rang, whether it was 5 in the morning, 10 at night, you would pick up. As for what De Niro had to say about the allegations, he made it pretty clear he wasn't about to co-sign on his former assistant's take on the events, with his lawyer telling a news blog the allegations made by Graham against De Niro are beyond absurd. But that wasn't the only drama in this situation, as Robinson's allegations came as part of a countersuit. De Niro and Cannell Productions, had actually filed a lawsuit against Robinson that same year, accusing her of not doing her job properly. The company alleged Robinson had a tendency to buy things using the company card and supposedly enjoyed watching too much TV or Netflix while she was supposed to be working. De Niro also speculated that Robinson had only made her allegations in retaliation for the initial lawsuit. Robinson was employed by De Niro from 2008 to 2019, so pretty long, and when she quit her job, she was Cannell's vice president, of production and finance at the time. As of right now, the two parties are still in the thick of their legal battle, so stay tuned. Sophia has a younger brother named Julio who has lived with illegal substance dependency for many years, resulting in many run-ins with the law. In 2011, this ultimately resulted in Julio being deported back to Colombia. When speaking about her younger sibling, Vergara said, "To see somebody ending their life prematurely over 10 years, little by little, that's the worst punishment. Now he's like another person." It's sad to hear this, but it should serve as a reminder to everyone that fame does not automatically make, one's life easy, peachy, or simple. This is not the first family tragedy, though, that Sophia has lived through. Her older brother met his tragic end in 1998 after a botched abduction attempt and was unalived. Her older brother, Raphael, who was 28 at the time, was a target because he came from a successful family. And although Sophia's siblings, usually traveled with bodyguards, he was not traveling with one that day. Sophia described this incident as a nightmare and something that destroyed her entire family. As unfortunate as it is to hear these tales about her family, it is good to see, though, that she has managed to make something special from her life and find her own success. Rihanna has been one of pop's biggest princesses for the last decade or so, and aside from, her vocal abilities and contributions to the music industry, she also appeared in several films, of varying degrees of quality, of course. She started her film career off on shaky ground with 2012's Battleship, but has steadily, participated in better projects since then. I mean, the Barbados-born singer, has had her personal life thrust into the spotlight on several occasions. But there is one thing that some people still may not know. Her father, Ronald Fenty, is somewhat of a womanizer and kind of an all-around, wild guy. Throughout her childhood, her father had struggles with illegal substance, dependency. This resulted in the deterioration of her parents' marriage. It also created a lot of financial struggles and challenges. In a shocking, candid interview with The Mirror in 2007, Rihanna actually opened up about her family's history. She talked about her and her siblings watching her father struggle with substance dependency issues. Additionally, her father's, philandering ways gave Rihanna several half-siblings from different women. Though these actions would, understandably put a strain on any relationship, it appears that Rihanna and her father do get along great these days. I mean, a couple of years ago, the singer bought a mansion in Barbados worth more than $1 million just for him. She also paid for her father to receive top quality medical treatment for an injury sustained in a severe car accident. Her father struggled, to stay sober over the years, but in 2013, Rihanna actually put him through a $58,000 Malibu rehab program. And while that was super generous, it ultimately did not work, and in 2014 at Rihanna's inaugural Diamond Ball in Beverly Hills, Ronald reportedly was kicked out for crazy behavior. He was under the influence, of course, and this was before she even arrived. Now, fast forward to 2019, news broke that Rihanna was actually suing her father because, Ronald created a company called Fenty Entertainment in 2017, but Riri already trademarked Fenty at that point. Now, Ronald and a business partner who's unknown allegedly, falsely advertised themselves as Rihanna's reps to solicit, millions of dollars, including trying to book her for 15 shows in Latin America that just didn't exist. Now, despite all of this, Rihanna is still here for her dad when he needs her, so that's sweet. Woody Harrelson. It's so hard to imagine what it must have been like for Cheers fans to first watch him in his breakout film back in 1998. Now, the lovable and rarely intelligent Woody Boyd all of a sudden became the psychopathic criminal Mickey Knox in the movie, wreaking havoc throughout the country in the wildly entertaining and poignant, Oliver Stone directed film. Now, the juxtaposition of these two roles is a perfect example of Harrelson's incredibly versatile range. The Mickey Knox role is a little coincidental because the actor's father was actually paid to eliminate people. Charles Harrelson wasn't a nobody either, as his name will forever go down in infamy as committing the first assassination of a federal judge in the 20th century. It was the assassination of federal judge John H. Wood Jr. in San Antonio, Texas. Charles was convicted of the crime in 1979 and sentenced to 2 life terms in prison. He was literally a hitman. It's even reported that he had business cards that advertised himself as such, and he was allegedly reported to have unalived 20 people. His lawyer was insanely good though at getting him off, and he was basically untouchable for a while. This specific crime of unaliving the judge is the one that actually got him caught and convicted. Now, Woody did eventually reconnect with his father and is said to have regularly visited him in prison. I think it was once a year. Now, Charles Harrelson passed away sadly in prison in 2009 at the age of 68. Now, it is a bizarre, revelation to discover that your father is not only a criminal but a notorious one. What's crazier about this story though is that Woody didn't find out until he was 20 years old one day, and he heard the story while he was driving his car and it was on the radio. His father left the family when he was just a kid, and so he didn't even know anything. That's crazy. And for Woody's sake, I sure hope the apple fell very far from the tree, although in the 80s and 90s he apparently spent millions of dollars trying to get his dad a new trial. He said he was just trying to be a son helping his dad. Charlize Theron. Seeing any person passing can be very traumatic enough, but when Theron was only a teenager, when she witnessed her mother blast her alcoholic father in self-defense, on June 21st, 1991, her mother, whose name is Gerda Meritz, unalived her father, and it took place on their farm in South Africa. Now, according to reports, Charles Theron was a violent man who had a history of physically and emotionally tormenting his wife and daughter. On the night of the that incident, he allegedly came home very drunk and began threatening and hitting both Charlize and her mother. In self-defense, Gerda grabbed the firearm and blasted him, which unalived him. Now, Charlize was only a teenager and witnessed the entire incident. Gerda was arrested and charged with manslaughter, but she was later acquitted due to the circumstances of the case. The court did rule that she acted in self-defense to protect herself and her daughter. The experience definitely left an emotional scar, though. Theron rarely talks about the situation at all, but she has expressed her support and love for her mother, who she credits with saving her life that night. And she has admitted that the traumatic experience has changed the way she plays certain roles. Joaquin Phoenix, American actor known for his roles in Gladiator, Joker, and Walk the Line, was originally born in Puerto Rico with the name Joaquin Raphael Bottom. Now, his parents were a part of the Children of God, which is a notorious cult that had more than 100 communities worldwide. It's actually known now as the Family International. The cult was founded in the 1960s by David Berg and emphasized, free love, communal living, and proselytizing, which, if you're like me and unaware of what that means, basically refers to the act of attempting to convert someone from one religion, belief, or opinion to another. This can involve, like preaching, teaching, or promoting a particular ideology or faith with the goal of persuading others to adopt it. Anyway, Joaquin's parents, John Lee Bottom and Arlene Sharon Dunetz, were both members of the cult when he was born in 1974. Now, the family actually traveled extensively, spreading this and performing music, and Joaquin has spoken about the unconventional and often unstable upbringing he experienced. However, in 1978, when Joaquin was about 4 years old, his parents left the cult due to concerns about its increasingly authoritarian and exploitive practices. Now, they fled the cult and moved to America, settled first in Florida and later moved to Los Angeles, where Joaquin began his acting career. Joaquin has spoken publicly about the difficulties of his childhood and the challenges of adjusting to life outside the cult. Despite all of this, he has also credited, his unconventional upbringing with shaping his creativity and worldview. He also credits, a lot of his life's work to his late brother River, who was also a very successful actor and sadly passed at a young age. Now, speaking of cults, Rose McGowan was born into the same cult as Joaquin Phoenix. Yes, you heard me right. That's crazy. I know, the same, but literally just in a different community and country, actually. Rose's parents were heavily involved in the Children of God. Rose was born on September 5th, 1973 in Florence, Italy, to Daniel McGowan and Terry McGowan. Now, at the time, her parents were part of Children of God. Now, when Rose was actually 10 years old, her family decided to flee the cult forever when they started to see women being mistreated and forced to act as servants to the men in the community. In various interviews, Rose has credited her father with saving her and her siblings from the cult. She's described how her father became, disillusioned with the cult's practices and decided to escape, saying they left in the middle of the night, taking his whole family with him. She said he made that decision in order to protect them. And she has spoken about the difficulties they faced after leaving, including adjusting to mainstream society and dealing with the trauma they experienced while actually in the cult. Now, Rose to this day has been such an outspoken critic and has used her platform to raise awareness about the dangers of cults and the importance of just protecting children from it.
Some of Taylor Swift's musical inspirations have not been entirely impressed by the singer's not-so-romantic ballads. In 2012, John Mayer told Rolling Stone that he was embarrassed by the song Dear John after her third studio album, Speak Now, because it was kind of presumed to be about him. He said, "It made me feel terrible because I didn't deserve it." Apparently, he was blindsided by the song's release. "I never got an email, I never got a phone call, I was really caught off guard." He said Taylor was too big of an artist to stoop to what he thought was low-level songwriting. Now, in response, Taylor Swift claimed to Glamour that he wasn't the track's inspiration. She's like, "How presumptuous. I never disclose who my songs are about." But he's not alone in his gripes. In an interview on The Ellen DeGeneres Show, Taylor revealed that her song Forever and Always was written with Joe Jonas in mind, and apparently Joe had called off the relationship over a brief phone call. Well, Joe took to MySpace to address his split, being like, "For those who express concern over the 27-second phone call, I called to discuss feelings with the other person. Those feelings feelings were obviously not well received, I did not end the conversation, someone else did. Phone calls can last only as long as the person on the other end of the line is willing to talk. Well, in the summer of 2012, Taylor Swift made headlines once again for a reported whirlwind romance with Connor Kennedy, son of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Speaking to ABC News in October of that year, Taylor didn't want to comment on the relationship because she doesn't talk about her personal life in that great detail. She said, "I feel like you can share enough of your life in your music to still let people know what you're going through and how you feel, and still with all the connection." Well, the bone of contention wasn't just the 4-year age difference between the then couple, but the fact that the duo was first spotted getting cozy only a week after Kennedy had become legal. So when asked if Taylor kidnapped Kennedy by flying him out to Nashville privately, she was like, "How did I kidnap him? You can't kidnap a grown man. These are serious accusations." Well, apparently, Taylor had been studying the Kennedy family prior to the relationship. Folks had a lot to say when she bought a $4.9 million beach house near the Kennedy estate in Cape Cod, allegedly just to be close to the family. And after the couple broke up, she sold the place. So when Taylor and Connor were dating, she was also accused of crashing a family wedding with him against the bride's wishes. Connor's cousin, Kyle Kennedy, was tying the knot with Liam Kerr, and Mother Victoria was like, "I didn't want Taylor in attendance." She told news outlets that apparently the couple texted her an hour before the wedding and was like, "Hey, can we come?" And she responded with a very clear, "Please do not come," and they arrived anyways. According to Victoria's account of the events, she graciously let Swift know her name, showed her the door afterwards. But Taylor apparently paid her no mind. Victoria said, "It was like talking to a ghost. She looked right past me." Jon Hamm, star of Mad Men, took part in a violent university hazing in 1990 at the University of Texas that led to criminal charges, at least according to court and school records. The incredible actor had not been previously publicly linked to a lawsuit filed by a member of a fraternal social organization who said he was severely harmed, dragged with a hammer, and had his pants lit on fire. In the 1991 lawsuit, the inductees said Hamm participated till the very end. Criminal records show that, well, he was charged with hazing and received probation, and a separate charge of harm was dismissed. That chapter of the fraternity, by the way, was permanently disbanded. A rep for Jon Hamm didn't comment on the incident when it was brought to light in 2015, and the star himself didn't give much of a comment to Esquire in a later interview. In addition to his hit piece comment, he was like bristling at the topic, and when he finally addressed it, he downplayed it as sensationalized. He literally said, "I wouldn't say it's accurate. Everything about that is sensationalized. I was accused of these things I don't do. It's so hard to get into it. I don't want to give it any more breath. It was a bummer of a thing that happened. I was essentially acquitted. I wasn't convicted of anything. I was caught up in a big situation, stupid situation, and it's an effing bummer. I moved on from it." So sure, none of the records were sealed. John wasn't famous when the incident happened, and his connection to the case didn't come to light until magazines reported on it. But the internet had opinions about how he talked about it, with one user on Twitter saying, "Jon Hamm addressing his hazing scandal in this profile is a great example of how not to sound sorry about hooking the claw end of a hammer underneath a freshman's you-know-what." Somebody else said, "Men like Jon Hamm were dangerous to be around on a college campus. Because if they thought hazing was okay, you can better believe they thought worse things were no big thing. Good men don't haze people. Men who do were trash." And that was according to Shades of Limelight. Fun fact, folks, there are more connections with mainstream Hollywood and the adult industry than you might think. Some major players such as Sylvester Stallone, Wes Craven, and Men in Black director Barry Sonnenfeld cut their teeth in the genre. It was also commonplace for many behind the camera to work interchangeably between the two worlds, sometimes using pseudonyms. So for example, cinematographer Wow Fernandez used names like Harry Flex for his adult film work, but he went under his real name for mainstream movies like Invasion USA, Friday the 13th, Final Chapter. In the early 1930s and then again in the 1940s, Joan Crawford was one of the most bankable stars in Hollywood. But before her star took off, there was a bit of a scandal that almost stopped everything. In 1923, a year before she first appeared on Broadway, Crawford reportedly starred in a movie called The Casting Couch. Now that name should give everything away, but in case you're a little bit lost, it was essentially an adult film. Crawford, trying to make ends meet and get her name out there, apparently starred in many adult movies around that time. Now she repeatedly denied her involvement, but researchers have found that sadly, she was blackmailed at the time because of the movie. Phil Lewis started his film career in the iconic 1988 comedy film Heathers. That movie centers around a slew of, crazy crimes, and that would become all too relevant to Lewis in just a few years. In 1991, at the age of 23, Lewis was arrested after accidentally taking the life of a woman with his car. The amount of fun fluids in his system was over 3 times the legal level, which even his own defense attorney called extraordinarily high. Lewis claimed he was unable to remember anything for nearly 10 hours leading up to the accident, which was deemed possible due to his extreme level of intoxication. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison, but was reduced to just 1 after he spent much of his sentence working with a a prison-based theater troupe that highlighted the consequences of that kind of crime. Now, despite these rough years as a young man, he continued to land guest roles in shows such as Married with Children, Boy Meets World, and then got that lead role on Sweet Life, which we all know him from. Uma Thurman said that Quentin Tarantino both hand necklaced her and spit on her for different shots for different moments in the films Kill Bill and Pulp Fiction, and Tarantino confirmed these allegations but defended the reasoning behind them. Now, Thurman has said that Tarantino also pushed her into doing a dangerous stunt that ended in a serious car accident, and these are all things that I think should be talked about more. Tippi Hedren was Alfred Hitchcock's most iconic leading lady. Under his direction, she went from being a model to a respected actress, but unfortunately he wanted a little more than to just direct her on screen. He was reportedly quite obsessed with her and made a number of unwanted advances, which she rejected. She said, "He stared at me and simply said, as if it was the most natural thing in the world, that from that time on, he expected her to make herself available and accessible to him, however and whenever and wherever he wanted." Now, when Tippi tried to get out of her contract with him, he threatened to ruin her career, and then he followed through on his threat. Because he had her under contract, he was able to keep her on the payroll without actually employing her. He made sure to turn down any film offers that came in from any studios. Looking back, she has a pretty good attitude about the situation, saying he ruined my career but didn't ruin my life. That time when my life was over, and I still admire the man for who he was, but yikes. The Kennedy curse spares no man. Senator Ted Kennedy, younger brother of President John F. Kennedy, was driving over a bridge with politician Mary Jo Kopechne in 1969 when the car leaped over the barrier and sank into the ocean. And while Kennedy was able to swim to safety, Mary Jo didn't make it. Once Kennedy made it back to his hotel, he waited till morning to call the police and report the crash. It is thought that maybe Mary Jo could have survived if help had arrived sooner rather than wait the 9 hours. Why did he do this? Well, he didn't want to get in trouble with the law, so he waited until the morning when he had sobered up. Some folks think that maybe the entire incident was an attempt to take the life of Mary Jo for unknown reasons.
Mariah Carey's former nanny, Simonette DaCosta, exposed all of her dirty laundry. She claimed that Mariah was extremely demanding and would often call her in the middle of the night to attend to her twins, Morocco and Monroe, with whom she shares with ex-husband Nick Cannon. In January of 2015, the singer's former nanny actually filed a lawsuit in New York District Court against the couple, claiming that the former couple neglected to compensate the nanny for overtime. Now, DaCosta sued for unpaid overtime wages, premium wages, liquidated damages, and attorney fees. Now, a representative for Mariah Carey actually told ABC News at the time that they don't comment on frivolous lawsuits. The lawsuit alleged that DaCosta cared for the twins from October 2013 till late January 2014. She was paid between about $3,000 and $3,600 twice a month. The suit claims she even traveled with Carey on international trips to take care of the children. During that time, DaCosta states that she worked more than 100 hours per week on a regular basis. She also claimed that she received no sleep or meal breaks and was on call basically like 24 hours a day. The suit also stated that Miss Carey terminated DaCosta after berating her for exhibiting too much affection towards her children. Mariah Carey would allegedly call with demands at all hours in the middle of the night and demand to be taken to her children or to be updated as to the status of her children. She also said Miss Carey would not tolerate any delay and would get really upset if even anything was delayed by like a single minute. Apparently, the ex-nanny settled the lawsuit against her former boss in June of 2015 for an undisclosed amount. The lawsuit also says that she's not the only worker that Carey and Cannon stiffed. The complaint reads, "There are numerous similarly situated current and former employees of Miss Carey and Mr. Cannon who were subjected to the aforementioned policy." Carey has actually admitted to having a hard time keeping nannies, and in 2014 she actually spoke about her struggle with Power 105.1's The Breakfast Club. In the interview she said, "I'm very hands-on. I fire nannies like this," snapping her fingers, "and I hate doing it, but I have to because if they try to make themselves more important in the baby's mind than me, it's a problem." Nick also confirmed that the singer fired their children's, minders every other week basically. He explained it saying, "It's something about a woman and her children, the minute the child chooses to go to the nanny before they go to the mom, I would have an issue with that myself. Everything's on a trial basis. It's just like, hey, we're gonna see how this works out, and we're always traveling, so the nanny might not get a plane ticket to the next city." That's really harsh, but you know what, I guess that's show business for you. John and Kate Gosselin are next. Remember TLC show John and Kate Kate plus 8? Well, if you don't, in a nutshell, John and Kate had 8 kids, which was interesting enough for them to land their own show on the network TLC. With 8 kids, one would definitely assume they had a nanny or 2. One of their nannies in particular, Stephanie Santoro, came forward to say that she and John allegedly had an affair, calling, the father of 8 very romantic. This wasn't actually the first time it was alleged that John had an affair while with Kate, but this was the first time a nanny came out to claim it. Though John has denied being romantically involved with her, Santoro told In Touch Weekly that, their fling began when John asked her to come over one night during her 1-month employment as, the Gosselin nanny. And at the Gosselin home, John asked Santoro to give him a massage, then proceeded to reciprocate. While they were sitting there, Santoro said John told her, well, I guess we can kiss just once. She said he later told her, whatever you do, don't fall in love with me because it's going to be impossible for me not to fall in love with you. Excuse me while I cringe for a moment. Now, the pair made their way into the hot tub and Santoro said she was afraid that, one of the kids was just gonna pop their heads out, but he told her to relax. Santoro said at one point he got out of the tub, went into the house to make sure the kids were all asleep. Now, that's when they actually moved to the apartment over, the garage where Santoro said they continued whatever they were doing in the hot tub. And then he fell asleep afterward, reportedly. Now, John's reported romance affairs have been scrutinized by the tabloids since his split with Kate, while Kate spent much time spilling her heart out about the couple's problems. John was exploring the party scene. He was photographed on yachts, living it up as his marriage, basically fell apart. And in a People magazine article, Kate jokingly blamed an alien abduction for John's transformation from, a computer technician into basically a rock and roll jet setter. John told ABC News' Chris Como in an exclusive interview at the time that the headlines have been unfair. Magazine cover stories bashing him and praising Kate. He said, we're both off base and basically besides the point. He also made a point to say, I would say, let's finish what we gotta finish and move on with our lives and stop feeding into the frenzy. Santoro, the nanny, she spilled so much more though. She actually exposed how much they make an episode, to which he said to her that they made about $75,000 an episode. That's a lot. Now, she also spilled the tea on John's plans to slow everything down in order to fight Kate for more money during their divorce proceedings as well as actually fight for custody of the kids. Now, Santoro also said that in her opinion, all of this is about money and John's ultimate goal is to obtain the most amount of money possible, calling him money hungry. Now, the tea got hotter the more she spilled it though, because she also said John had admitted to taking illegal substances and recalled a time that herself and a friend went over to John's house and he was allegedly acting really weird. Santoro claimed that she never in her life been exposed to anyone who has been under any illegal influence, but said her friend has and knew exactly what John was, on. It should be noted that many people came to John's defense and said that Santoro was answering questions that Kate basically instructed her to answer and that she was simply looking for her, 15 minutes of fame. I watched her interview, of her dishing all this dirt and honestly, she smiled while telling bad things about John. It was giving I want 15 minutes. It's also giving I got paid to say this, and it was also giving I'll never get in any position again for breaching confidentiality. But, go watch for yourselves, come to that conclusion on your own, don't let me influence you. Kate wasn't left out of the fire though once John and Kate became, just Kate plus 8 after their divorce. A nanny that worked for Kate specifically said Kate was a little too controlling when giving specific orders and that she gave employees a manual on her pet peeves and, to ensure that they actually would not, do those things. And also she wanted them to vacuum at specific times or place certain items on the floor. If the clock struck 9 p.m., the nanny was to literally stop in their tracks and stop whatever they were doing and just call it a day so that she didn't basically have to pay them for overtime. The nanny also admitted she had to eavesdrop on the kids' conversation with their father John. The children's provider actually decided to stop working for Kate when she witnessed Kate punishing her son in front of her other children in a matter that was really uncomfortable to watch. We have a double celebrity whammy, Katie Lowes and Connie Britton. Katie Lowes, who you may know from ABC's hit show Scandal, where she plays Quinn Perkins, actually worked as a nanny for Connie Britton's son Eob before scoring her big role. Connie, you actually may know her from the show Nashville or Friday Night Lights. Before Katie made it really big in Hollywood, she actually worked numerous odd jobs to pay the bills, and one being a nanny. And when speaking to Jimmy Kimmel in October 2013, Lowe's revealed that she had worked as a nanny to one celebrity who had a very unique way of parenting. She didn't disclose who it was, but Lowe's told Kimmel that one anonymous celebrity parent refused to put their children in diapers, saying if the baby would start to make a face of frustration, what you would have to do is quickly remove the onesie, rush to the toilet, and hold the baby over the toilet. As crazy as that might have sounded, Lowe's was able to laugh, at the absurdity of the situation in hindsight. Although Lowe's did keep the identity of that celeb a secret, fans did put two and two together when Connie Britton actually spoke to E! News and admitted that Lowe's was the nanny to her son. Apparently, Lowe's was fairly good at her job, as the star later joked that she was upset when she got that little pilot, Now, despite all of this hee-hee and ha-ha on both of their ends, some fans thought it looked really bad on Lowe's to expose something that specific to the public about another celebrity. Some thought she was low-key throwing shade, and one person even said they wouldn't have been happy if something like that came out about how they're raising their children on national TV. Fair. One person online at the time said, holding the baby over the toilet is actually a technique called elimination communication. It's a little uncommon, but not unusual. Not like some weird quirk she had. It's definitely a thing. With another person adding to that saying, yeah, Katie should have never exposed that publicly. It's so, particular, and many would easily find out that it was pertaining to Connie. I'd be mad. Well, it seems as though despite Connie being outed on her interesting parenting techniques, no love was lost, no fights were fought, and all was well in the end between them. Last up, we have David and Victoria Beckham. Now, the couple have been propped up as Hollywood's, golden couple for years. On the outside, they appear to be like the perfect family, but their former nanny, Abby Gibson, was actually fired for lifting up that veil of perfection. Gibson began working for the couple in May 2003, but resigned in March 2005 after a disagreement. Gibson made claims that both of the Beckhams would make over-the-top, insane demands that were nearly impossible to meet, which left her feeling like she was never doing her job properly. But that was just the start of the problems, because in a 7-page 2005 report, Gibson revealed that the couple had ongoing, intense arguments. According to Gibson, the seemingly very happy couple would have arguments literally all the time. The arguments were nothing new for Gibson, but there was a particular morning when she claimed she heard David call Victoria a really bad few words, which I won't say, but I will just say, at the time, Victoria was 7 months pregnant with their son Cruz. Now, the next day, after David left for work, Victoria allegedly revealed to Gibson that she didn't know what to do with their marriage. He was on about splitting up, and she pleaded for him to just wait until their third baby was born. Gibson actually claimed Victoria was deeply insecure about being pregnant and constantly compared her looks to younger women. One night, she told Gibson, allegedly, "I feel fat and I feel like crap." What is, there to stop him from going out and finding someone who has more in the way of looks? She said Victoria had tearfully confided in her while also saying, "I don't know if he loves me still." Gibson also claimed that Beckham had affairs with personal assistant Rebecca Luz, a beautician also named Danielle Heath, and at least one other woman. The famous soccer star had been dealing with cheating accusations as early as 2010, 12 years after the couple famously tied the knot. Now, even before that, in 2003, he was photographed leaving a club with a mystery woman in Spain. That was the same woman that Gibson claimed he cheated on Victoria with, their personal assistant Rebecca Luz. Now, Gibson said, "She told me she had pleaded with him to tell her the truth about Rebecca. He told me she asked him, just tell me, did it happen?" And he replied, "No, it didn't." Abby Gibson sold her story to the News of the World after the Beckhams lost a high court hearing to keep her quiet. Now, Miss Gibson's disclosures provided the basis for an article titled "Beckhams Behind Closed Doors," which was actually published in April of 2005. Now, Miss Gibson, who was actually paid like $300,000 for her story, said she believed the Beckhams had already discussed a separation and were not likely to be together in a year. In 2009, Gibson was ordered by a court to apologize for disclosing this private and very confidential information about them. She has since apologized for ever exposing these secrets and says that she vows to keep her mouth shut from now on. Well, duh, obviously you got paid, girl. Of course you're gonna keep quiet now.
I only know Alec Baldwin when he played that crazy obsessive role on The Cat in the Hat, the one where he in the end gets covered in the purple goo. I've had no idea though about his past scuffles with the law, photographers, and the recent incident on set, and the list goes on with him. Let's start with 1995 though, when he had a bit of a hands-on incident with a photographer right after his daughter, Ireland Baldwin, was born. Apparently, while they were coming out of the hospital though, a freelance photographer named Alan Zanger was spraying shaving cream all over his car. Alec obviously got pissed. You know, when you're bringing out a newborn and wife at the time out of the hospital after going through labor and more than likely sleepless nights, and you're seeing some butthead spray your car? They fought, and it got to a point where Zanger apparently got his nose broken when Baldwin allegedly punched him. But Alex says all he really did was break his camera. The weirdest part about this though was that when this was brought in for a civil case, Zanger managed to get $4,500 out of Baldwin for the damages that he started. Baldwin stated, "Anyone with a shred of human decency would understand that there are times in your life when you want your privacy respected, whether you are a public figure or not. I do believe that bringing your wife and a 3-day-old baby home from the hospital is one of those occasions. That Mr. Zanger felt it was appropriate to videotape my home and my family for his own profit is unacceptable to me. I asked him to repeatedly to stop filming us and he refused each request." Then there was the infamous case where, for some reason, a prop was loaded and during a scene had gone off and injured someone that resulted in them passing. I understand him still being in the hot water for involuntary manslaughter, which also the charges had gotten dropped, but I'm also proud of him for suing the studios as a part of it for negligence. Someone on that crew did not do their job properly, and that's coming from someone in the industry who had to be asked multiple times before using those sort of items if I had eaten or if I was under the influence, etc. The industry during the pandemic was wild. I know nothing obviously of how things were going on a Hollywood set, but I could imagine all the shooting that had to be redone or reconstructed or movies that had to drop overall due to how terrifying of a time that was. Tom Cruise was someone that was also not going to let the pandemic ruin the very minimal amount of freedom that they now had when it came to shooting with multiple cast and crew members within a location. He completely lost it, and rightfully so, because this was a crew of 50 people already, when he noticed a couple of crew members standing too close to each other in front of a computer screen during a shooting of Mission Impossible 7. If I see you do it again, you're gone, and if anyone on this crew does it, that's it. He was a producer as well on this show. Of course he's going to flip out if an outbreak happened on set, to where they would have already had to pause a production that's probably already been paused multiple times because of the pandemic. I understand the frustration. He doesn't stop there though. We are the gold standard. They're back in their Hollywood making movies right now because of us, because they believe in us and what we're doing. I'm on the phone with every studio at night, insurance companies, producers, and they're looking at us and using us to make their movies. We are creating thousands of jobs. I don't ever want to see you again. Ever. He said what he had to say to save y'all's butts from losing work during the hardest times of our lives. You can tell it to the people who are losing their homes because our industry is shut down. It's not going to put food on their table or pay for their college education. That's what I sleep with every night, and the future of this industry. So I'm sorry, I'm beyond your apologies. I have told you and now I want it, and if you don't do it, you're out. We are not shutting this movie down. Is it understood? If I see you again, you are gone. I'm slowly learning more and more about Mel Gibson while working here, and I finally started to see what South Park was talking about when they were making him the way that he was on the show. This is wild from someone who produced a religious movie, because while he was pulled over for driving under the influence, he apparently made anti-Semitic remarks towards the police while they were handcuffing him, even going as far as to question if one of the police officers was Jewish. Gibson states in his defense, "Please know from my heart that I am not an anti-Semite. I am not a bigot. Hatred of any kind goes against my faith." You know, I don't mean to knock you off your rocker, but alcohol has the tendency to really remove a lot of the filters we hold in our day-to-day lives. Not claiming that you are anti-Semitic, but you know, alcohol. Flying around the world with Russell Crowe, another character I punctured a lung from laughing so hard on South Park for his stupid violent outburst. I finally understand why now after reading this article from Entertainment News. The first claim I'm reading about him was with Azealia Banks filed a report against Crow for an assault. She apparently has deleted the Facebook post since then, but allegedly Crow had called her the N-word, physically assaulting her, and then tossed her out of the room during a party, only to spit on her after doing so. But an eyewitness revealed to the source saying Banks had stated some pretty colorful choice of words before that went down. "You would love it if I broke my glass, poked you guys in the throat, and red would spill everywhere like some real Tarantino stuff." If someone was doing that at my hotel party, even if they were a celebrity, I'd kick them out as well. The eyewitness states that Crow only bear hugged her to get her out of the room. 4 people came forward saying that Banks was acting, and I quote, erratic that night. Other instances, he has been reported for getting into fights with other people as well, hence the fighting round the world references in South Park. One instant though, back in 2005, Crow was charged with felony assault and 4th-degree criminal possession of a weapon after he had thrown a telephone at a hotel staff member in NYC's Mercer Hotel, stating that the rage started when he realized the phone was broken. But his rep stated that the phone was tossed at a wall and not at a person. It was a very, very minor situation that was made into something outrageous. There's more violence perpetuated from me walking between the car to the courtroom with the waiting media than anything than I'd done. You know, you can apologize for something a million times and for whatever reason people will still want you to apologize for it again and again and again. Very differently. It's affected me psychologically. He states his emotional outbursts stem from being an extremely sensitive guy. I'm a bit intuitive, so I know from a handshake whether somebody means good or ill, and sometimes I don't want to. Once I know where they're coming from, I don't want to play that game anymore. You're so real for that, coming from someone who will go into a mental spiral just because they looked at me poorly, or so I think. I remember when Britney Spears was on the news for shaving her head, but I never really took the time to delve into why it happened. South Park's episode kind of helped me get into some insight, but obviously it turning into some weird cult thing in the end, that was just classically outrageous South Park. The gesture was supposed to be a big F you to the public, she states. My long hair was a big part of what people liked about me. I knew that, she states. I knew a lot of guys thought long hair was hot. Shaving my head was a way of saying to the world, F you. You want me to be pretty for you? F you. You want me to be good for you? F you. You want me to be your dream girl? F you. I'd smile politely while doing TV show host, leered at my front, while American parents say I was destroying their children by wearing a crop top, while executives patted my hand condescendingly and second-guessed my career choices, even though I had sold millions of records, while my family acted like I was evil, and I was tired of it. The dark struggles of being in the spotlight. I truly empathize with her and these other celebrities with their meltdowns. Yes, they're public eye candy, but they do not owe us anything in return. Of course though, they are in the biggest eyes of the public, and it's a lot more than many people can chew. There has to be that balance somewhere of understanding where both parties are coming from. The poor woman states that she was in grief of not being able to see her sons during a divorce she was going through at the time, and really said it's time for a new makeover, to really give the paparazzi something to snap about. Suddenly, everyone became scared of her, even her own parents, because she was too ugly, proving a heck of a lot when it came to celebrities and people thinking they belonged to them. These are still people, and we tend to forget that. They are still humans who go through the same struggles we do, and the paparazzi tend to forget that.
On February 26, 2024, music producer Rodney Jones filed a lawsuit against Diddy, and on March 25th, Homeland Security investigations served search warrants in the early morning raids on Diddy's homes in Los Angeles and Miami. Diddy was then arrested this week after being accused of criminal activity from at least 2008. Now, he has pleaded not guilty to all charges. His lawyers proposed a bail package that included a $50 million bond, co-signed by Diddy, his mother, and other family members, as well as home detention, surrender of his passport, and a visitor log that would be submitted to pretrial services each night. But the judge denied this, which honestly was the right choice. It seems like a lot of different people were involved in this case. On the other hand, Diddy's lawyer has said that he's not afraid of the charges, and he also added that he thought Diddy was a target of an unjust prosecution, and the case of Diddy is still ongoing, and it will be very interesting to see what comes out of it. Then it was revealed this year that Hollywood couple Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds aren't as nice as they appear to be. Blake's movie It Ends With Us was released and it came with a lot of drama. Now Blake produced and starred in the film while it was directed and co-starred by Justin Baldoni. Things started going downhill during the press release of the film as people noticed that the cast seemed really disconnected from each other. Then Blake was called out for promoting the film in a lighthearted way when it covers serious topics. Now she also used the film to promote some of her brands, which just weren't appropriate. It was then revealed that her husband Ryan helped out on the film and even rewrote one of the scenes. Not to mention, Blake also made her own edit of the film. Then, a couple weeks ago, it was revealed that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's entire relationship is fake and that they were planning to break up at the end of September. Paperwork was leaked that was created by Los Angeles-based firm Full Scope, which revealed a strategy on what to do when the pair broke up and said the date for an announcement was September 28th. Now it also outlined a supposed plan to release an official statement at the end of this month, 3 days post-breakup, to allow the initial media frenzy to settle and ensure clarity. It added that the announcement would be gracious, respectful, and stress mutual respect. But a spokesman for Full Scope insisted that they were entirely false and fabricated and were not created, issued, or authorized by this agency. Now, last year, actor Matthew Perry was found dead in a hot tub at his Los Angeles home, and now new details have been released surrounding his death. He had been treating depression with prescribed medication and no foul play was expected, but now 5 people have been arrested in the case of his death. Now, Matthew's live-in assistant, Kenneth Amasa, was the person who found the actor dead. Investigators say that he was also the one who injected Matthew with the medication that led to his death. Now, Kenneth never received medical training and knew little, if anything, about the medications. Authorities say Matthew purchased 20 vials of medication for a total of $55,000 between September and October 2023. His death could have been prevented, and overall, it's just such a sad story and outcome, but at least those responsible will be facing justice. Now, Alec Baldwin was indicted by a New Mexico grand jury and recharged in connection with the fatal 2021 Rust incident. Now, the first criminal charges brought against Alec were dropped in April 2023, but according to New Mexico law, he could have faced up to 18 months in prison with the new charges. In January, a source close to the family spoke to People about how Alec and his wife were handling the indictment. The insider shared that the pair found the news frustrating and very stressful. They knew there was a possibility there would be a new indictment, the source told People. The back and forth is hard. Then there was an announcement that the pair were getting their own reality show to show their everyday lives with their children. Now, this announcement shocked a lot of people, thinking that they agreed to the show to fix his image and bankroll his legal fees. In the end, though, the case was dropped once again, and Alec hasn't faced any more consequences. Then, this week it was revealed that Miley Cyrus is getting sued over a song she allegedly copied from Bruno Mars. Tempo Music Investments, a company claiming it owns share of the copyright for Bruno's song When I Was Your Man, is claiming that Miley's song Flowers is a copy. In the lawsuit, it said it is undeniable based on the combination and number of similarities between the two recordings that Flowers would not exist without When I Was Your Man. Accordingly, plaintiff brings this action for copyright infringement arising out of defendants' unauthorized reproduction, distribution, and exploitation of When I Was Your Man, the complaint adds. Now, the company wants Miley and other defendants to stop reproducing, distributing, or publicly performing Flowers. The company is also seeking damages, but they have not released an amount yet. Now, Demi Lovato recently released a documentary recalling everything they went through while being a child star. I wouldn't end up where I am had I not made all the choices leading up to this point, but it came at a price, Demi explained during the doc. There's definitely not a manual on how to navigate this industry at such a young age. Now, the documentary featured other young stars like Drew Barrymore. Now, in the doc, the actors talk about bullying, how they were mistreated, and how they self-medicated to get through the pain they went through. Now, these stars hit a lot of things that were going on in their lives. It was a real eye-opener for a lot of people, and with these stars being honest, Demi is hoping that stricter laws can be made and followed when it comes to young people in the entertainment industry. Now, one of Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt's daughters filed paperwork to legally remove Pitt from her name the day she turned 18. Shiloh Nouvelle Jolie Pitt submitted a petition in Los Angeles County Superior Court on May 27th to change her name to Shiloh Nouvelle Jolie, the Los Angeles Times reported. She was granted this change, but she's not the only family member who did this, as in the playbill for the new musical The Outsiders, which their daughter Vivian helped Angelina produce, the teenager is listed as Vivian Jolie instead of Vivian Jolie Pitt. Then there was a time their son Pax made a Father's Day post to Brad, and it was leaked years later. The post said, "Happy Father's Day to this world-class a-hole. You time and time again prove yourself to be a terrible, despicable person. You've made the lives of those closest to me a constant hell. You may tell yourself and the world whatever you want, but the truth will come to light someday. So happy Father's Day, you effing awful human being." Recently, it's been said that Meghan Markle has reportedly been labeled Duchess difficult by US staffers. Josh Kettler, who was the top aide for the Duke and Duchess, quit his job in August after only 3 months, joining the increasing number of people who are leaving them. An insider aware of the situation told The Hollywood Reporter, "Everyone's terrified of Meghan, she belittles people, ignores advice, and both she and Harry frequently change their minds, leading to poor decision making." But the email in question, where she was demanding and rude, was honestly super normal. She woke up early and emailed one of her staffers, hoping to have a meeting with them. She was nice, and the whole situation was blown out of proportion. Now, it appears that there's a bunch of people out there who are trying to make her look bad for no reason. And finally, back in June, Justin Timberlake got arrested for driving under the influence. Sources connected to law enforcement said Justin was at the American Hotel partying, and almost immediately after he left and began driving, he blew a stop sign. Cops saw that and began to follow him, and it's then been said Justin began swerving, so the cops pulled him over. TMZ sources said cops performed a field sobriety test and asked Justin to take a breathalyzer test, but he refused. In the end, Justin was handcuffed and arrested, and the whole incident was recorded on a police officer's body cam. He was then charged with 1 count of DWI and cited for running a stop sign and failure to keep in his lane. Now, last week he pleaded guilty to a reduced charge in his drunk driving case and was ordered to pay a $500 fine and perform community service. He has to do 25 to 40 hours of community service at a nonprofit, and he was ordered to make a public safety announcement. Yeah, that isn't a good look, and now people are accusing him of getting off easy because he's a celebrity.
Kim Kardashian's former media strategist Shiraz Hassan alleged that her infamous 2012 flower incident was staged to help promote the perfume that she was launching. In the Channel 4 documentary The Kardashians' Billion-Dollar Dynasty, he claims that he told her, "Okay, this is what's going to happen. You're going to be fine, you're going to be safe, but we're going to create a media moment. If we create media gold, guess what's going to happen? Everyone's going to be talking about your perfume, and everyone is going to buy it." If you're confused about this whole situation, let me clear it up for you. In 2012, Kim K was flower bombed at the red carpet launch of her True Reflection perfume. While posing for photos, a woman threw flour all over Kim's body. The assailant was later caught and arrested. However, Kim decided not to press charges. After the incident, Kim told E! Online, "That probably is the craziest, unexpected, weird thing that has ever happened to me." Meanwhile, Kim's sisters also took to Twitter to defend her. Courtney wrote, "I wonder if they would have dared thrown the flower at my hormonal and pregnant self." Khloe then tweeted, "I wish I was with my sister tonight. I bet you that woman would not have dared tried a thing." Celebrities including presenter Juliana Rancic also tweeted in support of Kim, but turns out it was all fake. Next, let's discuss another secret that was revealed about Kim K's mom, Kris Jenner. Kris Jenner's former nanny, Pam Behan, believes the famous momager was, quote, grooming her children for their current celebrity status their entire lives. In her tell-all book, Malibu Nanny, The True Adventures of the Former Kardashian Nanny, Pam wrote, they only wore the cutest clothes from the nicest stores and were always perfectly well dressed, even at a young age. They were fashion plates and their image was being carefully crafted. I do believe that the success they enjoy now is what she always hoped for and wanted for them and for herself. On Twitter, Timothée Chalamet's agent, Brian Swardstrom, revealed Timmy's big secret. That he's never auditioned for anything in more than 7 years. The revelation sparked a huge debate about nepotism and privilege in the entertainment industry. Nepo baby is a term used online for somebody deemed to have achieved success only as a result of receiving help from famous or successful family members. The Beautiful Boy star's uncle is director and producer Rodman Flender, while his mom, Nicole Flender, has been credited as appearing in 2 movies, including one short film, and she was also a very successful Broadway performer. Users on Twitter came to Timothée's defense, one saying Timothée Chalamet hasn't had to audition for anything in over 7 years because he's simply that talented and that in demand. There's no larger conspiracy here, and I'm begging some of you to stop talking about this stuff with no knowledge of how the industry actually works. The privilege in question here is Timothée Chalamet's own talent, they added. On the BBC Introducing podcast, Ed Sheeran's manager, Stuart Camp, revealed his big secret, that every time they draw up a new management contract, Ed Sheeran adds a, quote, stupid clause just to wind him up. In 2019, he required Stuart to carry around a picture of the Weasley twins from the Harry Potter movies. Stuart said, quote, I have a little laminated card of those lovely twins. I have to have that with me at all times. It's in my management contract. Stupid things like that. Here are some more secret facts about Ed Sheeran that you probably don't know. He apparently names his guitars. They are called Lloyd, Felix, Cyril, and Nigel. And Thinking Out Loud is his favorite song of his, and Prince Charles is the first celebrity he has ever met. Oprah revealed a huge secret about Mindy Kaling, that she was pregnant. Mindy Kaling's A Wrinkle in Time co-star Oprah confirmed that she is expecting her first child while talking to People magazine. My mouth dropped. Winfrey recalled about how she first heard the news while standing in a press line at Disney's D23 Expo. What did you just say? She said. Oh, Oprah, I don't think you know I'm 5 months pregnant. And I said, what? Mindy Kaling wasn't too bothered by how her baby secret was revealed though, thank goodness. She did announce it, Kaling said on the Ellen Show. I had told Oprah and Reese Witherspoon on a movie that we're working on, A Wrinkle in Time, and she announced it at a press event. She was very excited. If anybody's going to announce big news about your private life, Oprah Winfrey is the person. You can't complain that much about it. And you also can't be like, hey Oprah, zip it, because she's almost like a religious figure. So if there's one person I have to tell my daughter about that revealed her existence to the world, Oprah is pretty good. Another pregnancy secret revealed. Britney Spears exposed Zoe Saldana for being pregnant. Spears announced that her former Crossroads movie co-star was expecting 2 little ones during a 2014 Entertainment Tonight interview. Who knows? That's a very good idea, but she's pregnant with twins right now, she said, so I'm sure she's got a huge future ahead of her. She said when asked if she and Saldana would ever work together again. On an appearance on Watch What Happens Live, Zoe Saldana confirmed that Britney Spears had been the first one to spill the secret. The way that it happened was so innocent. I never even thought about holding her accountable to anything, she told host Andy Cohen. We were on the same flight from LA to New York, and we just talked for the duration of the flight. She has 2 boys, I was having twins, and we had a beautiful talk. And I forgot, it never even occurred to me not to say anything, because we weren't trying to hide it. We were just trying to be discreet. I was shocked because we weren't ready to sort of share it, but it was Britney Spears, so it was okay. Also on the subject of Britney Spears, a former housekeeper of the celebrity pop star revealed that she struggles with keeping an orderly household and that she is untidy to the extreme. Spears' former maid said she frequently left clothes all about her room and that she even found partially eaten fast food under the furniture. Jennifer Lopez has been exposed for being a pop diva, and these accusations are shocking. Jane Fonda called out her monster-in-law co-star J-Lo for injuring her on set. On the Drew Barrymore show, she said, "The thing that comes to mind right away is that we have a slapping scene. I slap her, she slaps me. Jennifer, as per Jennifer, she had this enormous diamond ring. When she slapped me, it cut open my eyebrow. You know, she's never apologized for it," she concluded. But Jane Fonda is not the only one who has something to say about J-Lo. Last year, a viral TikTok trend where people told their J-Lo horror stories went absolutely viral across the internet, and some of these stories are insane. One user said, quote, "I served at a restaurant where J-Lo and Ben Affleck were eating. At the end of the meal, Ben put a $100 bill down as a tip for the waitress. As Jennifer was just about to leave, she grabbed the $100 bill and replaced it with $5. Yikes. Next up, we have Lea Michele. The Glee star has been in the news the last few years for her apparent horrible behavior on and off set. Replying to a tweet Lea Michele made about the Black Lives Matter movement, Glee co-star Samantha Marie Ware wrote, "Remember when you made my first television gig a living hell? Cause I'll never forget. I believe you told everyone that if you had the opportunity, you would poo in my wig." Amongst other traumatic microaggressions that made me question a career in Hollywood. Another co-star, Heather Morris, also had some things to say on Twitter. Was she unpleasant to work with? Very much so. For Lea to treat others with the disrespect that she did for as long as she did, I believe she should be called out. And finally, Davey Snell, who appeared on Glee in 2014, also recounted rude behavior from Lea. He tweeted, "Girl, you wouldn't let me sit at the table with the other cast members cause I didn't belong there. F you, Lea," in all caps. Lastly, we have Jennifer Aniston. Known as the good girl in Hollywood, Jennifer Aniston seems like she wouldn't hurt a fly. Well, that all changed when Jay Moore, her co-star in 1997's movie Picture Perfect, said that his most awkward interaction with a female co-star ever was, quote, "being on the set of a movie where the leading woman was unhappy with his presence and made it clear from day one." Although he never named her name, this was the only movie that fit that description. Maybe he's too scared Aniston's legal team will get involved if he speaks up. He also said, quote, "I hadn't done any movies, and even though they screen tested some pretty famous guys, I somehow snaked into the leading role." The actress said, "No way, you've gotta be kidding me," loudly between takes to other actors on set. "I would literally go to my mom's house and cry."